my daily vlog, day 7. Okay, sorry. Um, I guess that's a difficult thing about live streaming. Um, you can't actually pause this thing. I'm not sure whether you can pause this thing. No, I don't see any control for it. Okay, anyway, so back to the topic of the day. Today I want to talk about working experience. Um, so when I was writing out the script for today's vlog, um, and I look at it and I was like thinking, oh my god, essentially this is like I'm writing my resume or something. Okay, so anyway, I'll just share a bit on um, what I'm thinking of. So the thing is, um, in one sense, I have been extremely blessed, extremely lucky that I have loved working with computers and programming ever since I was a kid, ever since I was very small. Um, I think I shared before that my first programming experience was when I was probably around 9 years old. My father taught me how to program using Quick Basic on his Amstrad. So, and I continued learning by going to the library. At the time, we were living in Coventry, England, and the local library had books um, in Quick Basic for examples of games for kids. So I used to copy from it and try to understand it and things like that. But anyway, I have been loving programming and working with computers for a long time, and I've been blessed that I have had quite a lot of experience in my working experience with computers. So um, my first experience that I actually remember, I mean, we're talking about working as in you actually get a salary, even though maybe not actually um, acknowledged as a full time worker, but at least you get compensation for it. Is I think probably I was around 16, 17 years old. I think around Form 4 or less. Um, I think the computer shop was called Wawasan Computers, if I'm not mistaken. And I was a technician there. Uh, Worked on building PCs. Um, we formatted computers, remove viruses, install new hardware, and things like that. Um, it was quite technical, but I like working with computers, and I got a chance to, you know, work with some computers that I wouldn't be able to afford because like very expensive for kid. Um, yeah, so that was when I was even in school around 16 or 17 years old, and then after that, um, uh, after SPM, after SPM, I think probably around 18 years old. So I worked with a company. It was a computer networking company, and I learned things like, for example, crimping network cables. At one point, we even learned how to build apps for smart card. At that time, it was basically the company was distributor for Java. Sorry, not Java. For the Sun Microsystems company. So they had Java virtual machines. They had. So at the time we had those smart cards. It was just newly introduced, the cards with the chip on it, and we learned how to program it. So like how to create, for example, a e-wallet with it, and things like that. I didn't really commercialize any of programming. It's just that we learned the technology lah. So that was after SPM, and then after that I went to study at UTM Skudai in computer science for a few years. After I graduated, I think at that time I was probably around 22 years old. So actually, the first thing I did after graduating was I started my own company. I called it Abdullah Solutions. And what we did at the time is that we developed systems. We developed mostly web-based systems. For example, student engagement system, clock in and clock out staff system. Then there was even one thesis management system. So there was a few systems that we developed. I remember one of the things that we developed at the time was a system for essentially worker management, whereby the workers, the field manager would get an SMS every morning to report the amount of work that he expects to do, the amount of stuff that he probably needs, and then at the end of the day, he will have to reply to the SMS with the amount of work that was actually done and the amount of work that the amount of workers that actually showed up and things like that. And it was quite interesting because of course I tried to develop the thing as low cost as possible. So we developed it using a open source library, Gnocchi. So Gnocchi is an open source library that is able to send SMS through the the very old Nokia phones. We connect it through the USB, I think. Yeah, connect it through USB, and then you will be able to send out the SMS and receive SMS from there. So because we didn't use any of the SMS gateway or things like that, so it was technically a bit cheaper, but at the same time, a bit more fiddly. Sometimes the phone that was connected to the computer would break down, or the battery would run out and things like that. So that was some of the highlights of that time. But it wasn't able to last. I'm not a very good marketer, so in the end, business sort of dried up because I didn't market it enough, and basically there wasn't any new business coming in, and finally in the end I had to look for work. At that time I think I was probably around 25 years old, and I started working at OSCC at Cyberjaya. So OSCC stands for Open Source Competency Center, where the government at the time wanted to introduce open source software to the government sectors for the purpose of cost saving. Yeah. So the most success that we had at the time was, of course, deploying servers, because you don't have you just use um, you don't even use Red Hat. You use at the time uh, either Fedora or Ubuntu or any of the free, much more freer software, and we would be doing the support for it. And that was where I think probably the most success came from, other than like we also put in the numbers, like for example the use of open source software. We put Firefox usage, which is kind of, yeah, not really cost saving, because Microsoft doesn't charge for Internet Explorer. Of course, Internet Explorer wasn't wasn't really good at all at that time. But you know, um, anyway, and that was when I was properly introduced to all of the open source. Like there was community here in Malaysia, um, and some of the activities and things like that. It was quite interesting times for me. And then um, around 3 years after that, probably I was around 28. Um, Started another company, Inigo, with one of the managers that I found that I met at OSCC. That one didn't last long, probably around 3 months, 3 or 4 months, something like that. There was a lot of things happening at the time that made it difficult for me to to make it a success. So I had to look for another job, and I found a job at LCA at the time, Logistic Consulting Asia. Um, and the guy that was there, one of the reasons why he hired me was because he knew me uh, from OACC, from being involved with open source community and things like that. So that was great. I went to interview with him on the 1st of April, and then he immediately said, "Okay, you on board." And I really thought it was a April Fool's joke. I was just waiting for him to say, April Fools, but it didn't happen. So alhamdulillah. But it didn't last long, because even before I started working at LCA, I was already interviewing at CIMB, but I didn't get any response from CIMB at the time. And then it took around 2 months before CIMB came back to me and said that I was accepted. So, and then after that, I changed to CIMB and been with CIMB ever since lah. Um, so that has been my journey, my working experience. Um, yeah, so all of it has been with computers, programming. You know, I kind of like, yeah, it's good to be able to do the things that you love. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge, because sometimes the stress really gets to you and you feel you don't love it anymore. Yeah, like, okay, oh my god, I sometimes wish I can just quit and become a fisherman or something, and then my wife will make a mockery of me. I'm like, yeah, you won't last a day on the fishing boat. but but that's yeah, that's life. That's ups and downs. But mostly, alhamdulillah, it's been good. It's been good. So I'm still um, working with computers, learning new stuff all day, every day. Now mostly trying to get my head wrapped around learning AI and things like that. All very interesting. These are very interesting times. And also, yeah, even today I'm trying to learn another. Like I mentioned, I wanted to try other streaming software. So today I'm trying out Restream. Um, Personally, I like StreamYard better than Restream. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. I mean, it's just that I do not really like the interface. It seems kind of um, I don't know. I feel like StreamYard is a bit more polished, possibly. But yeah, because I'm just using on the free tier, so there isn't a lot of difference. Uh, Still pretty good, I guess. You know. Okay. So that's all. I'll have time to share for today. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.